Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and joining me as always is Austin, the Day Ghost. Welcome back to the ReQuest, everybody. And Austin, I'm having this like surreal experience now with this lead-in music that I've been using. We haven't talked about it at all. Nobody's even asked what it is. But the last 3 or 4 shows, I'm trying to do lead-in music on more of our programs, and I'm going to a lot of video game music because it doesn't get copyright flagged as often. And Jason the other day was like, "Dad, are you using any music that's not from a fighting game right now?" And I'm like, oh yeah, I've got like Marvel vs. Capcom, and then on the Patreon show, I'm using Virtua Fighter music. This is Killer Instinct music, Killer Instinct Gold.
Oh, okay.
And
I was gonna say I'm waiting for the announcer to announce the next player on Smash.
Yeah, but I can't use that because that's like Nintendo music, and
yeah. Oh, and they don't mess around.
They don't. I mean, you can use more of their stuff more readily now, but it's still hit and miss. Sometimes they'll flag you. There's compilation videos that get struck down all the time still. It's unfortunate. But anyway, I digress. I mentioned that because I just got the Killer Instinct arcade 1-up machine, and was playing. I got a really good deal on it, and my kids and I have been playing it a lot the last couple days, and we got to Tusk's stage, and that music came up, and I totally forgot that that's where I got that music, and I was like, oh, this is the intro for the ReQuest.
You were playing, and all of a sudden you were like, hello, everyone.
I got to review a movie. Suddenly I feel like I'm taking a test I haven't studied for.
Yeah, you gotta remember what you're reviewing.
Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to review Patriot games, which is, of course, based on the Tom Clancy novel, and a sequel. I don't know if you want to say loosely, like sort of a sequel, or if it full-on counts. I guess there's like one actor that comes back, but to the Hunt for Red October, which I have either never seen, or it's been so long I don't remember anything about it. I honestly don't know if I've ever watched that movie. But I have this thing, and this was requested, by the way, by John Early, who made several requests all at the same time a couple of years ago, and I'm getting to the rest of them now, finally. So I, Austin, have this thing with these movies where I always forget that they're all Jack Ryan, that they're all the same character. Like, Clear and Present Danger I've never seen, and every time somebody mentions these movies and that they're connected, I'm like, oh yeah, there's all these espionage thrillers that I think of as separate projects, like big popular 90s things, that I'm like, oh, it's a franchise, and I didn't even remember, for the longest time I had no idea it was a franchise, but I always forget about it when these come up.
Yeah, in a way it's kind of like Bond, but I don't know, maybe less in your face about, like, it's James Bond. It's Jack Ryan.
Way less in your face about it. It wasn't until the Chris Pine one that they even put his name in the title.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Bond isn't, like, his name isn't in any of those titles, but, like, they make sure you got, like, the 007 and the logo and stuff.
No, and obviously so, but, like, in advertising and things, people always know when it's a Bond movie. Like, James Bond, 007... GoldenEye,
they make sure that it's like this person is James Bond in GoldenEye.
And so you wonder because each of these, at least this initial trilogy, if you want to call it that, and probably the one after it, I think they all performed pretty well at the box office. You got to wonder how much of that is Tom Clancy fans and people who know who Jack Ryan is, and that these are all connected, and that they're following them, and how much of it is just individual movies on their own merits with trailers that look interesting, and people like to see these kinds of action thrillers and espionage things, and kind of spy movies.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And at least with this one and the next one, it's both Harrison Ford. Like, he's the only one to play it twice.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe with those two...
That one would have come off as a sequel to this. For anybody who saw it, I would assume.
Well, and I feel like Jack Ryan is, like, not the thing that people talk about with Hunt for Red October. The big thing is Connery, which is also Bond.
Yeah, isn't that strange? You would think that he would be, like, the main leading guy. Like, I've never seen that movie, so I don't know what kind of role he even has in that, but, like, his face is on the
one
cover.
Of the main guys.
Yeah, but watching this, you'd assume that each of these movies, you have a singular protagonist, but I guess that's not the case. I don't know, I've never seen that movie.
Well, yeah, because that movie, he's a Russian submarine captain that like takes over his submarine. So they have Connery playing Russian, but he's Sean
He's
Connery.
probably just doing the same voice he always does.
Yup. He walks around. He's like, "I'm Russian."
Who else wants to see Schwarzenegger do that? Because I do.
Oh, absolutely. I
He's
mean, we basically already do that with him as an American.
No, that's true, but now I want to see him do it with like all kinds of other things with like really specific accents that he's not even attempting. Or like, what if he was the lead IRA guy in this movie? Where like he's pretending like it's an Irish accent, but it's not.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I'd love that.
Anyway, so I want to open this by just saying that this is another one of those movies that I'm not remotely qualified to talk about because I've never read Tom Clancy. That kind of literature has always been a little bit too technical for me. I have a hard time getting excited about it. Where it's and I don't know how character driven those are. I don't know how like into the actual character I can get, but I've always seen just my impression of that kind of literature. It's sort of like the same things that tend to put me off with like a lot of high fantasy or sword and sorcery fantasy, where it's so much in a way world building that like it gets really technical and it seems like you get too much into the weeds for my taste with like the how and not enough of the why.
Well, especially because it's not something you're especially interested in.
Yeah, in the first place.
So I didn't realize we were going to talk about the books, but I have a complaint that I'm going to make right now, and it's right here, so I can just grab it.
Well, I was just mentioning that to say this is one of the many reasons I'm not qualified to talk about this.
No, I know, but
also
it came up.
Isn't my genre, and I'm not familiar with the other movies in this franchise. I did see. Let me say this real quick. I did see the Chris Pine one, Shadow Recruit, in the theater, and I think when I reviewed that, I didn't even know that these movies were connected to that. Like. I think in that review you won't hear me mention those movies whatsoever. I forget. What were you gonna say?
Isn't that Kenneth Branagh that directed that?
I think he did.
Yeah.
He's in it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I want to say he directed that, but I could be wrong.
I forget who else is in that movie. Some folks were in the comments were talking about how that's really skippable and there's no reason to watch it if you like these. That's probably true. I remember liking it okay, but I wasn't comparing it to anything besides just, typical popcorn action movies, really.
No, absolutely.
And for that, it was good.
Yeah. I'd like to go through all these movies because this is my first one that I've seen. But I read the first 100 pages or so of Hunt for Red October, and I just kind of dropped off of that. I was really enjoying it, but it was just one of those things where I put it down, didn't pick it up. But it has my number one ranty I hate this thing. Get out of here, Amazon! I don't want your show to be the cover of my book.
Yeah.
I hate that.
The most it's funny too because this this is also Harrison Ford, but the most egregious, I've talked about this before, of those kinds of book covers for me is going back to Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
And
it would just calling it Blade Runner?
Yeah.
And then putting Harrison Ford on the cover? It's not even the same story. You took one aspect of that book and you made it into a movie. And then we came back and we changed the title to Blade Runner. That's terrible.
Well, I got all the Bond books and it's a book cover. This isn't it's Sean Connery.
And that series had really cool book covers, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Most of the ones I have are these, which are really, really great covers. I have the last few books I have the newer covers, which aren't great. They're just kind of white and have the title. But these ones are great.
There's a whole line of those, and I think is it the same artist every time?
Yes, and they almost all. That was probably one of the cleanest ones that I could show off. It was just right next to me, but they're all very skimpy to naked women, and I bought all of them when I was 12 years old, and I had them in a box. So my grandma picked me up from school, and she was like, "Oh, what do you got there?" And I'm like, "I just got all these James Bond books," and because I'm 12, I'm not thinking about it. So she's going through them, and it's yeah, okay. And then my dad was so humiliated.
Oh no. Where
He's like,
she's
"Oh, I
looking
can't
at it
believe that
like you've got a
happened."
box of Playboys or something.
Yeah, like one of the covers, I think it's "Live and Let Die." It's like a completely naked woman, and she's holding two playing cards. Like that's just the cover.
That's great. That's really funny. Uh, so obviously more your sensibilities with this than mine. I forgot to grab my sign. I will right away say I was pretty captivated through a lot of this.
Hmm.
This was a
Yeah,
real
absolutely.
watchable movie. It seems like the obvious comparison, of course, is James Bond, and if you're watching it on that level and expecting that kind of storytelling and sensibilities, you won't be disappointed. A lot of critics at the time, including Roger Ebert, really wanted something more cerebral from a Tom Clancy movie, and I felt like comparatively to a lot of these kinds of things, it was, but I didn't have Hunt for Red October to compare it to, and
Mhm.
a lot of people say that this is kind of a step down from that. Even if you like it, I don't know. I've not seen that movie, but
Mhm.
the big complaint a lot of people had was the third act gets too over the top and typical action movie fare, and apparently, and like I love the way all that shot, so I was taken in by that, and none of that really bothered me. But apparently that happened because there was, well, first of all, Tom Clancy like took his name off this movie and
Oh wow.
didn't want to be associated with it because he didn't like the direction they were going. He didn't like Ford in the role.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He wanted Baldwin to come back, and there's kind of conflicting uh, explanations apparently for why he wasn't there. Apparently, they kept putting off the start date to make the movie, and he was wanting to do a play, and he claims that they basically gave him an ultimatum, and were like, you either have to wait for us for when we finally make this movie, or go do your play. So he went and did his play.
Mm.
I forget what the play was, but anyway, apparently they had a test screening, and there was a different ending, and the audience didn't like it. Apparently, the Harrison Ford fights the bad guy underwater, and people didn't care for that, and so they changed it to the more kind of flamboyant, bigger, more James Bondian kind of ending.
Mhm.
And Ebert complained about the thing you told me you liked about it. You messaged me afterwards and said it felt like Indiana Jones, and that's exactly what Roger Ebert complains about in
Yeah,
his
it
review.
just turns into Indiana Jones at the end, which is fun
And he
because
says it degenerates into Indiana Jones.
yeah, well, and that's the thing I said to you almost word for word is that this could have easily felt like a degeneration, but to me it didn't.
I didn't think so either, really. Like,
Mhm. But that's really interesting because it's not really an action movie. Like that's one of the big differences between this and Bond is that it's um, because the Bond books are also like a little bit more technical, but they're also very pulpy, while Tom Clancy is just technical. Um, so this one kind of strikes that balance between that and having action in it, where like a lot of it is just like CIA analyst stuff. But then you also have Harrison Ford shoot people every now and then,
yeah, and the
hard
action that's there
faces.
is really well shot and well storyboarded. Like, it's if it is storyboarded, like it feels pretty real while you're watching it,
Mhm.
and it doesn't ever go on too long. It doesn't feel like action set pieces. Like, everything is
Mhm.
born out of the story they're telling, and there's not this fear of, okay, if we don't every so often stop for 10 or 15 minutes and have a big grand action movie, we're going to lose the audience. Like, it's not at all worried about that. But when we go to action, it's more than competent, and it is exciting, but it's tense before it's like fun exciting.
Yeah, it's more to the point, I think, with the exception of the climax. That's like a
Yeah,
little bit more um, drawn out, but I don't know. Like I thought that worked.
but I feel like even that is making a case for it. Like, it's trying really hard to, and like maybe it doesn't work as well as the rest of it because of the reason we ended up with that ending, because it is somewhat contrived by definition, right? But I thought like the scene where you get the big car crash with his wife and daughter, which is real tense and scary in the moment where you're like, oh god, like it's really visceral. Like, what happened to these people? It's not a car chase. It's not really a car chase.
Once it becomes a car chase, like, if you want to call it that, it lasts about 5 seconds. Like, it's just...
Yeah, and the hero is stuck in traffic and doesn't even get to do anything.
No, exactly. He's just stuck in traffic and can see the smoke ahead.
So I feel like they're
very real in that way.
They're attempting to use that kind of spirit in the big climax at the end, where the reason it's drawn out is because Jack Ryan is... So many Jacks in roles like this. What is it with Jacks?
What is it with Jacks?
Jack Shepard, Jack Bauer. There's so many Jacks. I wonder if Jack Ryan has anything to do with why Jack Bauer is named Jack Bauer.
I don't know, but he's got a JB name and he's Jack.
I don't know, but anyway, but it feels like it's born out of the same spirit, because the reason it is drawn out is because the whole thing is a ruse on Jack Ryan's part in trying to get the bad guys to chase him so that he can get him in a trap. So, like, there's a whole plan on his side for why it lasts as long as it does, like getting them out into the water and trying to get them away from his family and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's still more...
It feels story-driven enough.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like somebody actually thinking during, like, an action scene, and not just, okay, I'm going to shoot you until you die. But then I also get that kind of an element, because the way the villain dies is very silly and awesome. I love it, and that's exactly what I want from these types of things.
That's the thing, is I'm a little bit conflicted about some of that, because I want to praise it for realism, but then some of my favorite things were the real Hollywooded movie stuff about it. And I think I enjoyed the juxtaposition is part of it. Like, I never like to say review proof, but there are places where it feels like that, where I'm like, I should be complaining about this, but I enjoyed it too much, where it's like... The characters in the movie are all playing everything super straight, to the point where the movie can get away with doing some like unreal, over-the-top things, because I'm engaged with the characters and I'm buying the reality. So it's only after the fact that I go, oh yeah, I guess that was a little heightened in places. But it doesn't feel like it while I'm watching it. It feels like things are really happening.
Well, especially because it's pretty tense, so you're like just with it.
Yeah, you're always in the moment with it. I said visceral. A lot of scenes are that way. There's a lot of really good kind of first-person POV stuff. A lot of really cool camera pushes. I love everything about the way this movie's shot. Like, the cinematography is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All the way through.
No, it's great. Absolutely.
But yeah, I was going to say a minute ago, the main comparisons that I can make are kind of retroactive things that come after this. But you mentioned, we were talking about Bond. I feel like this is kind of somewhere in like this character in this kind of storytelling, or action fare, is somewhere in between like traditional James Bond and we're specifically talking about like where it falls in the technical spectrum, like how technical the storytelling is. It's somewhere between Bond and Bourne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's between the two JBs and Jack Bauer. So really, the three JBs.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, and then I found myself thinking about 24 through this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a terrorist plot, and because it's a guy who's kind of like out of the game that gets sucked back in, which happens in a lot of 24 seasons. And
well, there's a lot of like the analyst stuff in 24 as well.
Yeah, this felt like 24 in 1992, where for this time it's real high tech, but you look back at it, it's super quaint.
Yeah, he's got like that awesome car phone.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like
you got
this big.
You got the bit where he calls the. I forgot about that. I was expecting him to pull like a big antenna out the end of it.
Oh, that would have been awesome. That's how you know it's high tech. It doesn't even have the antenna.
Yeah, it doesn't even need it. It's amazing. You've got the bit where he calls the phone operator, and is like, this is as high tech as this gets, where he's like, I've got a. Well, that's not true. There's some computer monitor stuff later on. You know what's another way, real quick, that you know that it's high tech is because it's one of those movies that uses the trope where you can enhance images that couldn't possibly be enhanced. Where you have something that's like they zoom in, it's really blurry. It's like, oh, can you enhance that? And then it clears up real it. It's not possible. I don't know.
No, that is a sequence that is like made to be parodied, where you just take that scene and you remove every cut to the picture and you replace it with something else. That scene is like made for that.
Well, and it's especially funny because of what has to be enhanced because of
It's already funny.
the big plot point of we're jumping all over the place. We didn't have you do a synopsis.
That's true.
We'll keep mentioning details, and then I'll have Austin give a synopsis. But you've got just because it's part of the formula. We have to do it, even if it doesn't happen until 21 minutes into the.
That's how we'll end the show this time.
But you have the plot point of we found this female operative. Who's working with the IRA because of the like size of her chest. That's like a major plot point. It's just hilarious that that's the thing that has to be enhanced on the monitor. But anyway, the thing I was going to mention earlier is he's got to alert his wife to danger on the highway, and like they're after her, and she doesn't know it, and she and her daughter, of course, are just happy-go-lucky. They might as well be singing "Wheels on the Bus." They don't go that far, luckily, but they're real happy on the highway. Everything's going great, and she's talking to somebody on the phone, and Jack Ryan is trying to get through to her and can't. Also, we'll get to Super Chats in a couple minutes, guys, and thanks so much. And so the big high-tech thing he has to do is he has to call the operator and get the operator to do an emergency breakthrough, which I've never heard of. I didn't even know that was possible.
I didn't either, when he's just like, look, it's an emergency. You need to make an emergency breakthrough. Sir, it's a cell phone. You can't do that.
And then he goes, well, and it's great because you don't hear the other end. All you hear is Harrison Ford go, what do you mean you can't? And then that's it. If it was Jack Bauer, he would just be screaming at that operator that he doesn't know, like threatening her entire family. And
well, yeah, and you'd be doing the Weird Al thing of just smacking the phone off the table over and over again, or off his dashboard.
He'd be like, it's a matter of life or death, and you've only got 45 seconds, and it has to be done. Like, there's a lot of 24 in this movie.
He would be smacking the phone off of the dashboard, and then the audio would cut out, and you'd get and it would cut to commercial.
Yeah, and then when you came back, you'd have all these panels of subplots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you cut to the wife, and then you got like the terrorists with their guns, and you have Jack Ryan freaking out.
And then you'd have the president with his hand on his forehead, and then you'd have some random person making eggs.
You'd have James Earl Jones doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And then
you'd have like Ted Raimi making his coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Ted Raimi, who would be introducing through the said panels, and then we'd zoom in on his panel, and then we'd be like, oh, this random guy's making eggs, and here's why.
Yeah.
Exactly. You and I have got to do something on 24 at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
No one will care. I've done 24 content before. Nobody will care, but it will be fun for us to do. I was more at home here because I watched that show. It's the only terrorist kind of thing or espionage thing I really ever cared about that I spent any time with, just because I liked the format of that show, the real-time thing.
Yeah. Well, that's really fun. Have you ever seen the Simpsons episode where they do 24?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
I remember liking that one a lot as a kid. I haven't seen it in years, but it's like the entire episode is like in real time, and it's like Bart's like the anti-bully league. I don't know if it might not be good. You might watch it and go, "This sucks. Why did he recommend this?" But I liked it a lot as a kid, so take that for what it's worth.
Okay, we're 25 minutes in. Austin, would you give us a brief synopsis of Patriot games?
Yes. So Patriot game is about Jack Ryan. I think he's on vacation in Ireland or in England, and then he's caught up in an IRA attack, and he shoots a few of them and
the
kills.
Second movie, by the way, we've had to review on this program about the IRA, which is a thing I never knew anything about, and now I'm being forced to be more educated about the IRA.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what the entire show's about now, is just teaching you about the IRA.
The other one was what, the Crying Game?
Yeah, it was a crying game, and it's both games.
And both early 90s. They're both the same year. I guess that makes
So
sense, though.
the lesson we have here is that whether it's a crying game or the Patriot games, the IRA is no fun in games
And in
because they'll kill you.
1992, especially, it's no fun again. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And then GoldenEye's like what, 3 years later, and it's got
Does that also have stuff about the IRA?
yeah, that's Sean Bean's character. His backstory has to do with like kind of fallout from that.
I don't even remember that.
It's brought up like near the end. It's not like a big thing that they focus on. But...
So my apologies. What else happens in this other movie with the word game in it that's about the IRA?
So Sean Bean does not die there, but his brother does, and he's like, "I'm gonna get revenge on that Jack Ryan." And so the IRA, well, it's not like you think it's the IRA, but it ends up being like an offshoot of the IRA that's like a more crazier version. They're the super IRA.
Yeah, they're really extreme. Well, I think the idea is that they're the IRA, but then there's like a more mainstream guy who runs a political party that's like a real political party. I looked this up, and he is maybe in league sometimes with the IRA, but there's a question of like how what his loyalties are and how close he is with them. So it's more like he's too extreme for mainstream Ireland, but he's not the IRA, but he won't throw them under the bus because they're Irish. So I think that's what it is. But I think the IRA is the extreme group here. I don't think it's like a crazy offshoot of that. I may be wrong about that. I'm not super confident with that because I don't know enough about the IRA, but like,
He's still learning. Learning.
Well, because the way it watches is that there's like this one group that is the IRA, and then their leader is killed at the end by Jack Ryan, which can't be what exactly is going on.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think he's just like a person.
But it does. But I'm just saying, for the sake of the movie, it does kind of feel like that's what's happening.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, we got to make him feel like the big bad villain guy.
Sinn Féin is the name of the Democratic Socialist political party that guy is the head of.
Oh, okay.
That like kind of grizzled guy that's like, let's have a drink, and then goes, wait, I don't want to have a drink with you.
Yeah, that guy that looks like not Donald Sutherland.
I guess he does look a little bit like Donald Sutherland. Speaking
like a little bit.
There's all these connections.
Yeah, no, there's way too many to name. Yeah, so they decide that they're gonna kill Jack Ryan, and they go after his family, and they go after him, and they get his daughter and wife into a car crash. So now it's personal. Jack Ryan's gonna take them down, and he's gonna use his analytical powers to find them, kill them, and then they attack his house like Skyfall.
That's true, yeah. And his powers of observation in noticing attractive women that happen to be working with a group that is mostly men. Like, in his peripheral vision. I recognized that woman I saw for 3.5 seconds. I do like that everybody questions it, and that, like, it's kind of unbelievable, but he turns out to be right. Like, that was part of the realism of it, where it's like, you have this kind of almost ridiculous plot point that works because everybody goes, wait, how could you possibly? And then he even is not entirely sure that he's got it right. He's like, I can't prove it. I'm like,
it's the feeling.
Yeah, she looks really similar. I'm almost positive, but I'm not gonna pretend like I know. Everybody's really reasonable in this movie.
Well, that's just the Harrison Ford of it all. He's like, I've seen those before. This is the IRA.
It's a really funny plot point. You know what the funniest thing with that plot point is?
What's that?
It's James Earl Jones looking at it through a microscope. There's this scene where it's like he's trying to understand bacteria.
It's
fantastic.
And he's like, Yes, Ryan, we found them.
I've got several places I want to go right now, but let's read super chats down, and
Yeah,
then
let's go for
I
it.
want to talk about how big of an all-star cast this is. I want to
Absolutely.
talk about the ways in which it makes story points because it's a franchise movie, but doesn't feel like a franchise movie. That's a big thing I want to talk about. And then I also want to know, just help me put a pin in all these things. I also want to know, you be the judge about whether or not I'm intentionally holding my fingers like a gun. You be you be the judge about that. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, I want to know after a bit how you felt um, about the big kind of tense chase scene in the house because I'm a little conflicted about it.
Okay.
Jar Jar Ed, $10 super chat. Did you know the original plan for the fourth Jack Ryan movie was going to feature William Shatner alongside Harrison Ford? Unfortunately, Cardinal of the Kremlin was deemed unfilmable, so they scrapped it. I did read that was in kind of production hell for like a year, and then they ended up not making it. But
That sucks.
I didn't know about Shatner. That's crazy.
No, that sucks that we didn't get that, but we got American Psycho 2. That sucks. I don't know. Shatner had a rough career.
Yeah. Shatner's had one of the greatest and worst careers simultaneously. I
Yeah.
Almost no one comes as close as he does to a 50-50 split.
Yeah. When I saw this like weird Grindhouse movie that he did, I think shortly after Star Trek, and it was awesome. But then he does a movie like American Psycho 2, and it's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
He was not careful about his projects.
No, not at all.
Jar Jar Ed, $5 super chat. Jack Ryan, exclamation point. If the spying in James Bond was at all, he's writing in all caps now, at all like how that profession actually works. Sorry, it's not all explosions, gunfights, and seduction. Yeah, and I mean that's a great point, and I think, but there's room for both, and I like that we've got all these different tiers of it. Like I said, with uh, with something like Jason Bourne, where it's just constant chasing, constant running. At some point, you're like, this guy's gonna have a heart attack. He's running so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, and
No,
then
one
you
of the
get
things
James
that
Bond where you have actual downtime, but so much of those movies are big set pieces where a lot of the story is contrived around making those things happen. And this is like the much more realistic version of all of that, where when you really look at it, there's again, it still is somewhat heightened. It's still not exactly real in what would actually happen, but it feels like it, and it's a lot closer. And I think what's exciting about it is you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop and the big bombastic, 20-minute James Bond car chase scene to happen. And when you finally get that scene, it's not 20 minutes, but it's thrilling because of the buildup.
Mhm. No, absolutely. No, what I like about Bond from the book perspective is that it's got like those elements of like the technical thing where like Bond's constantly talking about paperwork and stuff, but then it also has like super villains that want to steal all the gold in Fort Knox. Like it's like this weird like fun kind of pulpy thing, and then the movies kind of run with that and go, okay, like it's like a fun action series, and then
Yeah, they've got comic
this is
book villains.
yeah, absolutely. That's one of the biggest appeals of Bond is that like it's like a comic booky spy thing, and then this is like a bit more technical. And like you said, there's absolutely room for both. Like I think both are really good in their own way.
Yeah, and it's more realistic about where those major players come from, where the characters come from. You just have this analyst that's no longer working with the CIA because it was too much for his wife and his family, because she's like, oh, I really don't want to go back to that life, but I like that. Again, everybody's reasonable. Like later on, he's got to stop these people. They keep trying to kill his family. She's like, go get him, go kill him, them suckers. She doesn't say that, but
Go get them,
go
Spidey.
go get him. So like that's a real natural kind of place for this hero to show up. I guess what makes it a little bit more over the top is that he wasn't a field agent, but like he is pretty good at field work. Like, he doesn't have any training in that, but he's the hero, so, he's doing pretty well at that stuff.
No, I've always thought that part of the appeal for Jack Ryan was that it was like if Chloe and Jack Bauer were the same character.
Yeah, and man, obviously I'd never had that thought because I didn't even remember that Jack Ryan was an analyst first. It makes me wish they'd done that season. Like, why couldn't... Because I don't think Chloe ever dies in that show, does she?
No. I mean, I didn't see that last, like, half season, but I don't think she dies in that.
No, I mean, and I think she came back for the last Jack Bauer season. I don't think she was there
That's
for...
what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she was there for that other...
Oh, true, and I wasn't even counting that. There was that reboot season.
Yeah, well, and actually that was like, I want to say a year or two after. It was kind of right after, but they didn't do anything with Jack Bauer there. And I always thought
I don't think she's in that.
We're talking about this now. I always thought it was a huge missed opportunity if you're going to go on to somebody else not to finally kill Jack Bauer, and to like take him out off screen the way they did was obnoxious.
Really?
Well, he's not dead. They just kind of write him out. And
oh, okay. I thought you meant like they opened. They're like, oh, Jack Bauer died. Okay, anyway.
No, but they just came up with a silly excuse for why he's not there, and
oh, why didn't he just like retire then?
Well, he's still on the run and all of that.
Oh God.
So like he's.
Maybe I don't want to rewatch 24. It's gonna be sad.
Yeah, it peters out certainly, but yeah, I'm not sure that second revival season. I'm not sure if she's in that. But what I was gonna say is, why couldn't that second revival season, if Jack Bauer wasn't coming back, why couldn't that have been her having to do field work? That would have been great.
Well, and Jack and Chloe was like the big thing I liked as a kid. Like that was like growing up was like part of the appeal of like why I want to watch this. Like I want to see these two characters beat bad guys.
Well, and it's one of the best examples of how to make a like comic relief character also a good dramatic character.
Yeah, because she's not Felicity. She's what Felicity should be.
Yeah, well, it's what Felicity sort of was at the beginning, except already better than that. But anyway,
yeah,
I digress. We'll talk about that show at some point. That would be a lot of fun. But yeah, God, why couldn't they have done that? That would have been wonderful. Jar Jar Ed, $5 super chat. I think the problem with the ending, we can go ahead and just get into this, is it just ends after the boat blows up. It feels very abrupt that they cut to the Ryan family and then credits. So this is where, yeah, this is kind of a complaint I have too. If I'm invested in this as a franchise, that's a good ending. If I come into this thinking it's just a movie, I don't understand at all why we leave the gender of the baby ambiguous and then cut to credits. Like, that only works if it's sequel bait.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense if this is just a movie. And, like, I realize it's not exactly, so maybe that's not a fair complaint. But again, it's not the James Bond thing. You can't expect every audience member even knows that you're in the middle, especially at this point, when you've got an almost entirely different cast from Hunt for Red October, made by...
James Bond has always ended with, like, and earlier on when credits were shorter in movies, it'd be like, movie ends, James Bond will return in, and back then we would make them once a year, so we already knew what the next movie was. So it'd be like, James Bond would return in Thunderball. We're letting you know, like, go see this next one. Like, this, his name's not in the title. It's this movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, exactly. It's a good point. See, it makes me really conflicted about how the danger to the family is handled, because throughout the whole movie, first of all, I'm expecting both the wife and the daughter at various points to maybe get killed or get a lot more injured than they do. And by the end of the movie, I'm impressed that you made me constantly afraid for them, and it felt like a movie where anything was possible, and except for probably Harrison Ford dying. But, like, the stakes were always there. And I didn't think it was a cheat while I was watching it that the little girl loses her spleen and doesn't die and is probably going to be okay even after that whole ordeal. In the moment, it made it worse because, like, she has to live with that, and the parents. It's like it felt almost like they were taking like pieces of his family,
Mm.
stealing them away from him piece by piece. And that whole thing was so much worse to me in the moment than if just she died in a car crash. And I really liked that. But then I get to the end of the movie and I went, okay, it kind of feels like, now that I'm thinking about this as a franchise, it kind of feels like they both have to survive and not too much happens to them because we're going to make more of these movies and there's a status quo to maintain.
Yeah,
So
well,
I'm a little
that's fair.
conflicted about it now.
Yeah, and I don't know how much continuity they have between all the movies, so it's hard to say. I'd imagine this one and the next one probably have the most because they're both the Ford movies, and then I think the Ben Affleck one's a prequel. Maybe I'm not sure about that, but I could be wrong.
Well, here's the thing. If it's just about keeping a license and they're going, we want to keep making these movies with Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan, they could do anything they wanted to. But the problem is they bought. I did look this up. They bought both the studio, this and Clear and Present Danger at the same time, which means if those characters figure at all into that story, they're
Then
keeping them alive so that they don't have to readapt it to so they don't have to change too much when they're adapting it. So it really felt that way at the end to me, especially once I knew that they went into this planning on making Clear and Present Danger.
mhm. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I was just with the movie enough that I wasn't really thinking about those kind of choices of like, yeah, you can't kill these characters because we haven't more movies to make.
I wasn't either until the very, very end when that looked like sequel bait, and then I went, "Oh, I'm supposed to care in a way like more about this family than I thought I was."
Hmm.
Like as the main characters of the whole piece as opposed to just Jack Ryan and how they're connected to him. If that makes any sense at all, where it's like, oh, now it's like a family drama beyond just you know I don't want to just say plot devices because like I like the wife and daughter well enough, I think.
Hmm.
But they're serving his story more than anything, and then you get to the end
No,
and
of
it's like,
course.
oh, what gender is the baby gonna be? And I'm like, I'm supposed to care about that in this movie? Okay.
One that is like a nice thing, I think, to separate it from other spy things is that he is like a family guy. Like he's not, this man just running around sleeping with everybody.
Yeah, and he doesn't have that tragic backstory either.
Nope. No,
He's
he,
just
he
a
worked a desk job.
yeah.
That's tragic enough.
No, he's just and he's a consummate hero, right? Like he's and one that you could buy maybe existing where and actually let's talk about motivation for a minute because I think this is interesting. Just having seen it the one time, I think you could read the scene uh, two different ways when he saves the member of royalty from the terrorists. Either he's doing it because it's the right thing to do and he worked for the CIA and he cares about like matters of state and he's a patriot, right? Like it's sort of a double entendre title, right? Like
Mhm.
he's a patriot, the IRA think of themselves as patriot, they're playing games with each other, they're all patriots for different, right?
Mhm.
um it's either that or it's he yells to his family like get down. He's afraid that if he doesn't stop whatever is about to happen, they're going to get hurt, or it's both.
Mhm. Yeah, it's probably somewhere in the middle. And then it's your kind of like almost like a reflex kicking in, where it's like this is something a place you've been before.
Yeah, and that was a really interesting idea to me. Like this isn't a super like it's not a character study. It's not a super philosophical movie or anything, but there is a little bit of that kind of ethical conundrum of should he have gotten involved because of the consequences to his person and his family in getting involved. And that's one of the reasons that I appreciated how reasonable the wife is. That there does seem to be a part of her that's like, and she never complains about it, but I get the sense that she's thinking, man, if only you'd left well enough alone, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Mhm.
But then she also can't help but appreciate her husband for being altruistic.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's part of the reason that they're together. Like the thing that she saw in him, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's just a good person. It's kind of that simple.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But I really like that about it. Like I like the way that the bad guy, the IRA guy who blames Jack Ryan for killing his brother. And I mean, okay, Jack Ryan did kill his brother, but like wants revenge on him for that. That was the one really typical thing about this is just this sort of obligatory. Well, you killed my brother, so I have to go after you. I I always I always want these characters when they get in their big fight at the end to have an exchange about like what the guy would do if the shoe was on the other foot. You know, the
Hmm.
IRA guy. I want Harrison Ford while they're fighting on the boat. I mean, I realize they're not going to even be able to hear each other with all the water and everything, but in the motor. But I want like they have a big fight, and I want at some point Harrison Ford to be like, why do you want revenge so bad? You know you would have done exactly the same thing in my place. Like,
Hmm.
you guys shot at me first, and he says that at the hearing.
Yeah.
Where like I like the way this is what I just started saying. I like the way the guy like tries to twist things around and say, he was impulsive, he got involved in something that he shouldn't have gotten involved in. That's what started there's like this grain of truth to it, like very tiny grain that kind of got me thinking about the ethical conundrum of it, where I'm like, well, yeah, like if you had it to do all over again, would you have gotten involved because of the snowball? But then it's just an ends justifies the means question
Hmm.
before it's anything. Like at the end of the day, I guess he would do it again because from his perspective, it's the right thing to do. Um,
Yeah. No, I'm sure, it's partly your reflexes kind of kick in. And then, like you said, like he has his family there and stuff. Like he probably, no matter what, would have done the same thing. The only thing he would have done differently is he would have killed Sean Bean right there and then.
yeah, and then you'd have no movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you'd have part of a movie. Because here's a question: would the rest of the IRA still have gone after him if that guy didn't want revenge? I think so. Because like they're
Yeah, there is a possibility since he jumped in and killed a bunch of their people and stopped their plan.
yeah, like they see him as a threat now.
Hmm.
Because you remember the
Yes,
whole thing with
still had
the
the movie, just not as personal.
yeah, the whole thing with the ending is the IRA leader guy wants to finally give up on trying to kill Jack Ryan because it's not worth it anymore, and that guy who wants revenge has just lost his mind at that point.
Yeah, you get that moment where they go into the basement and he just starts shooting and he kills their injured member because he's just not paying attention. He's just shooting everything.
That's what it kind of turns into, either James Bond or just any like standard action fare.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, I mean, Sean Bean is a Bond villain.
Right. But later, like
Mhm.
retroactively.
Yeah, well, only like 2 years later.
Josh, $2 super chat. Sometimes I don't understand Josh's lingo.
Yeah, I saw his thing before,
Do
and
you
I
want
was
to read that? You read this one.
okay. Now I gotta find it
Oh,
again.
okay.
Harrison Ford is a sussy baka, says
I don't know what that means.
Josh. Which, if I remember correctly, so sus means like suspicious, and I think baka means fool, because that's like a whole thing with Chewbacca. But
Oh,
I think that's what it is.
I know about the sus
He's
thing,
explained this to me before. I don't know. I don't get the kids these days.
but I also wasn't entirely sure if that was a typo or not because I thought it could have been sassy. I wasn't totally sure, and then I did the other thing I've never heard before.
Harrison Ford walks out and he's like, "I'm feeling really sassy right now."
Jar Jar Ed says Ben Affleck's movie is a reboot, which is
Oh,
why
okay.
and he says why because it's the fifth book. Would you
I
reboot it?
mean, that's apparently just the spy game because James Bond has that weird thing too.
But at least when we like full on rebooted with Casino Royale, it was the first book.
No, that is true. But like the orders are still really off. Like even we started with Doctor No, and then the sequel to Doctor No is the book that came before Doctor No, which is From Russia with Love, and it's all over the place.
So let me ask you a question, since you're a lot more into this genre than I am.
Mhm.
Is it disingenuous to compare this kind of thing too much to James Bond, given that that's like spy thriller versus espionage? Like, there's a lot of similarities, but like this guy isn't a spy. Even if he worked in the field, it wouldn't be exactly the same thing that James Bond is, right? Like, I've
Mhm.
never thought of 24 as a spy thriller. Like, it's got elements, and there's certain missions where it feels more that way, especially if anybody has to go undercover.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, James Bond's just kind of like the big cinematic spy thing. So it's like no matter what it is, it's going to be compared to that. It's existed for 60 years as of this year.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, is Jack Ryan a spy?
Not really, but it's that same kind of like espionage thing. It's
Okay.
not like movie James Bond is especially spy,
No, that's true. And like, I've never understood why you would always introduce yourself with your real name if you were James Bond.
which isn't a thing in the books. That's like a thing in the movies.
Well, okay, that's good to know because it doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm. No, the books are slightly more technical, so like he'll get undercover names and stuff like that.
Okay, it's especially because he does go undercover a lot, but like he always wears exactly the same clothes. He's never changing it up, and
Well, that's book Bond because he's very
oh, okay,
particular about everything.
and he tells everybody that he's James Bond, and that seems very silly in age with Google.
Hmm.
You just look the guy up and be like, "Oh, I know what's about to happen to me and my girlfriend." Like,
Well,
because
they
he's gonna
kind of make
sleep
that
with
work
her,
in
and then I'm gonna die. That's what's gonna happen.
yeah, they kind of make that work in Casino Royale, where it's like they give him a fake name and stuff, but he's so cocky about everything. He's like, I don't need that, and he just introduces himself as James Bond, and Vesper's like, seriously, and Bond's like, ah, they probably already know that I'm here, and they know my real name anyways, so what does it matter?
I was gonna say I couldn't remember if there were any consequences to his doing that.
I mean, yeah, like everything goes wrong. But that's also how you get the like double entendre name thing is that Bond tells Vesper that her I'm trying to think. He says that her like undercover name is like Tiffany Broadchest or something like that. Like that's how
Oh
they fit in
no!
the entendre name. It's pretty fun.
I'm pretty sure Tiffany Broadchest was in this movie.
She was Harrison Ford.
Yeah, and we had to look at her fuzzy image under a microscope. Jar Jar Ed,
Until they enhanced.
$5 super chat. The book continuity is all over the place. The book Patriot Games is a prequel to Red October. This is why development hell happens with later movies.
So is the Jack Ryan series just Zelda? Like we had a certain point, we just go back.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't
And
mentioned that
it's
there's a TV series on now, and I've heard good things. I may check
I
that
have
out.
too. I'd like. I mean,
You got this
no,
constant reminder.
I've heard the show is really good too. I think I've heard the second season's like a bit of a drop off compared to the first, but the first is supposed to be really good. So I'd also like to check out the rest of these movies and the show.
Name a show that was really
Doesn't
popular
have
for a
that?
season that got another season or more that you haven't heard that about.
That is true.
Can you name any? Because I can't right now. Like, I keep hearing that about everything I'm not looking at, or that I've seen a first season and haven't gotten to the next yet. Like, I mean, I haven't watched this show, but like Umbrella Academy, everyone's like, you've got to watch the first season, and then the second season dropped, third season really not that good. Name a show that doesn't have this.
That is true. I also don't know like if that show was canceled or if like they're making a third season. I haven't heard anything about it since season 2 came out, and that was like 2 years ago, I think.
That's an
Not
Amazon
more.
show, right?
Yeah, it is.
Well, hey,
It's got Krasinski.
they should renew it because they're going to be desperate for content after what's happening with Rings of Power.
They had to cancel it to fund Rings of Power.
Yeah, but now they're going to need to make other content people will actually watch if they want to have original content.
One of my favorite things is how much Amazon like simped for that show, where every single package you'd get from Amazon is just rings of power, rings of power, rings of power, rings of
Dude, it's
power.
on the tape that
Yeah.
holds the box together.
Yeah, and I like log on to Amazon Prime and it's like, do you want to watch a Rings of Power?
Yeah, and then you
Nope.
finish any episode of a show or any movie. Well, not episode of a show because it'll go to the next episode. But you get to the end of a movie or the last episode of a season of anything, and no matter what your history is, no matter what, whether it seems related at all to the thing you just watched, you could be watching a World War II documentary, and the next thing that it will pop up to playing next, Rings of Power.
Yeah, it'll be like,
every time. It doesn't matter what it is.
it'll be like, oh, you really liked Peppa Pig? You'd really love Rings of Power. It's like, I get it, Amazon. You spent like $500 million to acquire this license. I
You
get
guys are
it.
really protesting too much. Like, at this point, you should just make a Kickstarter to recoup your funds.
My favorite reaction to that show has been Elijah Woods.
And
He
look,
was
I
like-
haven't watched it. I don't know if it's worth watching or not. I'm just saying, like, clearly it's not doing what they need it to do, and I think it's really funny.
Yeah, no,
Like,
absolutely.
DJ liked it okay. He said it was fine. I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't care to watch it. So I'm not. If you're watching this and the 8 people that are bothering with this video, and you like that show, I'm not saying anything about the show. I have no idea, but I just think the way they pumped so much money into it is hilarious because. Like, I think a lot of us kind of saw the writing on the wall with this, even before the show came out, where it's like, there's no way you recoup that with a streaming service and with material that isn't actually going to Tolkien. Like, you're just making stuff up. Like, that's not what fans of that want.
Well,
it should
that's
have been
my
a
favorite
reboot.
reaction is Elijah Wood. He was like, "This isn't even Lord of the Rings. Why is that in the title? It has nothing to do with Lord of the Rings. It takes place like 200 years before that."
Are there rings that have power?
Probably. I don't know. You like Patriot games. You'd probably like Rings of Power.
You like this commercial for a stick of gum. You
You
probably
like 5 gum. I want to see that. It's like you're opening like a piece of gum and you like pull it up and on the inside it just says Rings of Power.
Jareth
Got it on,
Gearhart.
like, banana stickers.
I appreciate you, Jareth Gearhart. He says, I'm bothering with this video.
Jareth Gearhart, have you seen Rings of Power? Let us know.
You know, if you like this video, you'd probably like Rings of Power.
You would, yeah.
We're being paid by Amazon. Not very much, because they have no money left now. Austin, how did you feel about the kind of penultimate climax in the going back to Patriot games now? In the house after the power goes out, I love the suspense of all of that, but I have to be honest with you, the chase in the basement and everything, my mind started to wander. I thought all that lasted a little bit too long.
Oh, okay. No, I was with it completely. I thought it was pretty tense. I really liked the moment where he like lures everybody down into the basement, and they all have night vision goggles. And when they come in, he like flips the power on, and all the lights come on. I thought all that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and maybe it didn't last as long as it felt like it did, but just all the stuff in the dark where I'm not even saying it was too hard to see. I will say occasionally I wasn't sure like what characters were doing what. I guess was maybe part of the problem, but like I really liked the artistry of it. I just
started to wander a little.
Yeah, because it was the only scene that did that. Like the movie was so to the point and confident and focused for the most part up until then. I'll say I was more interested in the scenes with Jack Ryan trying to figure stuff out than I was the scenes with the bad guys like scheming.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that felt ultimately necessary, but I just didn't care as much during those sequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the villains aren't especially like Um,
Compelling.
yeah, exactly. It helps that you have Sean Bean, but that also means you just know he's gonna die.
Yeah, that's true. The
And he's
coolest.
no Sean Bean in GoldenEye either. Like it's nowhere near that level.
I did love a lot of the flair in that sequence, like the some of the production choices. The score. We haven't talked about music. There's a
Mhm.
really good score here, and the most memorable stuff for was this a James Horner score? I think it was.
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't think to look.
The Give me a second. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
this is a James Horner score. Um, It suddenly sounds like a samurai movie during that period. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's
And
kind of like a really creepy choir theme that plays throughout, and like, ugh.
yeah, and then you get to that, and suddenly it sounds like a Kurosawa movie or something. And there's this really cool like lineup with the those stings in the score, and like white light hitting the screen, like when the power comes back, and all that. Like that stuff was really neat. I got back with it when that happened.
No, that stuff's really great. I also thought the score was really good and creepy.
Austin, name some actors that are huge now that weren't maybe quite as big when this movie came out. As you said last night, it's a stacked cast.
Oh God, but specifically people who weren't big then but are big now. It mainly just goes to Samuel L. Jackson.
Is it
Like
just
this is,
Sam Jackson?
I think so, because this is all after Star Wars and stuff like that. So
Okay,
like
well then just name
James Earl
famous
Jones is
people that are in
already a
this movie
guy.
because it's a big cast. Who's in
Yeah,
this
you got James
movie?
Earl Jones, you got Harrison Ford, you got Samuel L. Jackson, you got Ted Raimi. Uh,
His character is unnamed and has 2 lines of dialogue, but he's there. And a year before he's cast in ReQuest.
when I got really excited because I messaged you and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Ted Raimi!" But the scene that I first saw him in, he's like in the background, and then he showed up later and he was like fully there, and I
Yeah,
was like, "Oh, he's back!" And
he's he can
when I
say
got his
he's
second
acted with
scene,
Harrison Ford.
yeah, no, when I got to his second scene where he's with Harrison Ford, that was when you were like, "Oh, I just got to Ted Raimi."
Yeah, I was like 15 minutes behind you the whole time.
Yeah, yeah, because you said that, and I was like, "Oh, I can't say like he came back. I don't want to spoil Ted Raimi."
The actor that was that I don't want to say disappeared, but I just didn't recognize was Richard Harris.
Oh yeah,
He's the main IRA guy, and
yeah, I didn't recognize him either.
I saw his name in the credits at the beginning, and I was like, "Oh, interesting." And then I forgot he was supposed to be in it. And then when I looked it up later, is who that was. I was like, "Oh, it's such a young Richard Harris. I didn't even pick up that it was him." I guess.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. No, I didn't catch that either. But then you also have Sean Bean, like we said earlier, with the IRA, and then I think that's it for like the big people.
Yeah,
But
when we mentioned James Earl Jones, I wish he got a little bit more to do.
I'm guessing he has a bigger role in the next one because I heard, or actually, this could go either way. Now that I say that, because
Does he die in it?
no, I heard it's like about he has like cancer or something, and then Jack Ryan has to like step up to be to take his job.
Well, and he's the only actor that's brought
So that could
back
go either
from
way.
the first one, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
isn't
don't
he
know.
in Hunt for Red? Somebody is in Hunt for Red October, and I think it's him.
I think there's a lot of people. I don't know if he's in it. I'm not sure.
No, I mean that are in this movie. I think
No, I know.
he's the only actor that's brought back. Shut up, Austin.
Yeah, because I think instead of him, it's Morgan Freeman in that reboot
In what
that
the?
they did, the first one with
Oh yeah, yeah,
Ben Affleck.
yeah. I don't know who it is in the Chris Pine movie if that same character is there because I remember think there's somebody else in that I was surprised to see there, but I can't remember who it was right now. So I'll have to look that up at some point.
Oh, now that you say that, I think I looked that up and it was somebody. You're right. Let me see.
Yeah, we can find it. We have the power.
Yep, that's true. Oh, Shadow Recruit. That's what it's called. Oh, it's Kevin Costner.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, Keira Knightley's like the love interest in that. Weird.
Yes, but I don't really remember much of what she does in that. Okay, so James Earl Jones is in fact in Hunt for Red October. Oh, weird! And Jack Ryan's wife is played by Gates McFadden in that.
Oh, weird.
You know who that is?
I recognize the name, but I'm trying to think of
That's
who it
Crusher
is
in
again.
TNG.
Yes, that's right.
Isn't
Okay,
that crazy?
that is crazy.
I
Well,
didn't
she's
know
a
that.
doctor too.
Deanna vs. James Earl Jones was famous before Star Wars too. That is true.
Well, yeah, but I just meant like when I said Star Wars was already out, I meant more so because you have him and Ford.
Yeah, because those are both actors that are in Star Wars. In case you didn't remember
Yeah,
that.
have you ever seen
Have
Star
seen
Wars:
Star
Daniverse?
the most famous movie ever made.
No, that's The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I forgot.
That's okay.
You know that's in your movie too, right?
You know, The Wizard of Oz is in Patriot games now, right?
Jar Jar had $5 super chat. Let's face it will always be a step down when you go from the director of Die Hard and Predator to the director of The Saint and Salt. That is true.
That is correct. John McTiernan, he rocks. That's a great action director.
Yeah, and this director, I guess, is also a pretty good action director. Or is it that he's good at, like, I don't even know how to put it, just like dramatic tension, and then he can bring that sensibility to the action scenes, because it's like you said, it's not exactly an action movie until the end.
Mm-hmm.
So like
No,
if you gave this guy a Bourne movie or a Mission Impossible or something, would he be good at that? It's kind of hard to say.
He'd at least be good if if he was to do Mission Impossible 2 and it was a continuation of the first one and not like let's do an action series now.
Oh, good point. Then he'd probably be good for it.
Yeah, because they obviously
Philip
make
Noyce.
that change, but then they don't make a good action movie till 4. So
Yeah, and then after that, they're wonderful. But
yeah, I still got to see 5 and 6, but I really like 1 and 4.
would you agree with me if I were to go as far as to say, I don't know how good he'd be as a director for something like Bond or something, but he should have showran 24.
Well, Bond would be interesting because they've sometimes gone to directors that are not the obvious choices. Like the guy who did Quantum of Solace, and that's not a good example, but the guy who did Quantum was like the director of Leaving Neverland. Like he was like a small drama guy.
Yeah.
That's also a bad action movie, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess that's not that surprising.
Yeah.
But of course, we talk about this all the time.
It would be interesting.
The Russos and Winter Soldier. Like, sometimes you'll have guys that have never done action that have the right head for it.
Well, yeah. Well, it's really interesting with the Russos because if you go back to the episodes of Community that they got that movie for, where they do the Western and Star Wars thing, like you can definitely see it. Like
Yeah.
it's there. They're just not stretching those muscles outside of that, which is weird because they apparently can't do it outside of Marvel now.
Oh, really?
Well, because everything they've done since has kind of been ripped apart, and like people don't really like it.
I've never heard anything about their other movies. I haven't bothered to see them, and I just haven't heard much.
Well, yeah, and they did a spy movie this year for Netflix. I'm trying to think of what it's called. The Gray Man. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
With Gosling and Chris Evans, and it is like textbook definition. Okay.
Oh, did you see it?
Not great. Yeah, it's not great. It has one of the worst CGI scenes I've ever seen, and I was like, I can't believe you did this.
Oh, no.
But overall, it was like, this is fine, I guess.
They learned some of the wrong lessons from working at Marvel, I think, when it comes to special effects, because they weren't relying on any of that with Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
And then there are things they do later
Absolutely.
where it's surprising it's the same directors. How long do you give it before they go back to Marvel?
Well, they had that in an interview recently where they were like, "We won't go back to them this decade." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Okay. I think your career choices might make that decision for you. When you
Yeah,
get to a place where Marvel's the only place that'll have you back, maybe if you're. I mean, I don't mean to be too harsh on them, or too hard on them, but if they're making stuff nobody cares about, that might be the only door that's open. Sort of like what happened with Bryan Singer and X Men.
hmm I mean, yeah, no, that absolutely could. When they said that they would only go back if they were doing Secret Wars, and then Kevin Feige immediately came out and said they're not doing Secret Wars when they announced the director for King Dynasty.
Yeah.
So, but it would be nice if they did go back to Marvel, if they did something small again, like just do like a one character thing.
Yeah, and do some kind of a thriller. So I just wish that we're not even talking about this movie anymore. We'll go ahead and close up shop here in a minute. I just wish that they had been allowed to play to their strengths. Like you get, I don't want to say they got too big for their britches exactly, but Marvel kind of did when they're like, well, this thing was popular, and with like Winter Soldier did well, and then Civil War was them doing the same thing but with a bigger cast, and they can do like a bunch of superheroes, so we'll give them the huge cosmic stuff, and their sensibilities, at least in my opinion, didn't really go real well with the cosmic stuff. Like I like Infinity War and I like Endgame more than some people do, but like I wish, as you said, they had kind of stayed with, if not smaller movies, just stuff that fit their personal interests better. Like they should have made Black Widow. That
Yeah,
movie would probably have been pretty great under them
yeah, that'd
with
be
the
pretty
right
cool.
with the right script, and they might
Uh,
have even allowed it to be a singular character piece.
well, and I think that's one of those things is that those guys are really good at balancing characters. So like that helped when they did other Avengers stuff. Like
Yeah, that
there's
that is true.
so many characters in Infinity War and Endgame, and yet it isn't as bogged down as something like an Age of Ultron, which is half the characters, because they just know how to balance it, right?
Yeah.
But I would like to see them do something more along the lines of Winter Soldier, where they get to balance and make like a cool, down to earth action movie.
I agree. What else, real quick, would you like to say about Patriot games?
Um, that was really cool. Everybody go watch it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Did it make you want to watch everything else in the series?
Yeah, I actually put the 4K set of all the movies on my Amazon cart last night, and it's like $70. I was like, that's not too bad. I'll pick that up my next paycheck,
Cool.
and then I'll watch that show.
I will definitely at least go back to Hunt for Red October and watch the sequel to this.
Yeah, it sounds like the Ben Affleck one, and then maybe the Chris Pine one are more skippable. And I say maybe because I know you said that you thought that one was pretty good.
I mean, I thought it was pretty good when I didn't know anything about this character or the Tom Clancy stuff. I'm kind of worried if I go back to that. Or are we talking about the Chris Pine movie? I'm a little
Yeah,
worried if I go back to that after I've seen this stuff, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I get what people are saying. It's really not that good.
yeah, and maybe. Um, Brana can be a bit more hit or miss. Who knows?
So I know I'm not going to remember to do this every time, but I'm going to do it now because I'm actually remembering to do it. We talked weeks ago, maybe months ago at this point, about doing a like Hall of Fame
Wall of
for this
Fame.
show, like movies that I should buy physical and put on a shelf. And I want to do that. I just haven't gotten around to starting that collection yet. But where if I like a movie well enough, I'll buy it, I'll put it on the shelf with a sign under it that says ReQuest Hall of Fame. Do you think this movie is good enough to put in the ReQuest Hall of Fame?
No.
Yeah, I'm a little on the fence about it. Like I liked it. I don't think it goes in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just joking. I just said like 5 seconds ago that I already put it on my Amazon cart. So yeah, I would buy this movie.
Okay, but like you're wanting to buy it and have it and have the rest of them doesn't necessarily mean you would put it on the Hall of Fame shelf.
Oh, well, I always assumed that the Hall of Fame was just movies you're willing to buy.
Oh yeah, okay, well
But
maybe that's what it should be. So you're willing to buy it. Yeah, okay, if that's all it is, then this goes in the Hall of Fame. I am willing to buy this movie.
Yeah, I always assumed that's just what the Hall of Fame was like.
I've
Yeah,
overthought it now.
I would put money to buy this physically.
No,
I don't.
I do this with. I've overthought it. Like it's just purchasing a thing and putting it on a shelf. It's not giving it an Oscar.
Yeah, it's not like you're, I don't know, having kids with it. Like it's just you own it now.
So, Patriot Games. I know you liked it. Okay, would you marry it?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need to walk it down the aisle? All right, well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you had a good time. Thanks, everybody, for watching live, and thanks for watching it after the fact, everybody else. And leave your comments. Let us know what you thought of this movie. You know what? I have
also,
no idea
let us
what we're
know
doing
if you
next
like
time.
Rings of Power.
Oh, yeah, let us know if Rings of Power is worth watching. I never will, probably, but...
Mm-hmm. No, but if you'd like anything we've talked about tonight, then you'll like that.
But you'll probably like that, yeah. We were paid to say that.
Cha-ching.
Goofster123 requested a movie that we're going to do next week called Escape from Tomorrow. I don't know what that is.
I don't either. Interesting.
I'll look it up real quick. It's from
could
2013, and it says it's an American independent horror film. Written and directed by someone named Randy Moore. Should I see what the general premise is, or do you want to go in totally dark?
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay. So it was a 2013 Sundance Film Festival personal selection of Roger Ebert.
Is Roger Ebert still alive in 2013?
He dies in 14.
Oh, okay.
Film drew attention because Moore had shot most of it on location at both Disney World and Disneyland without permission from the Walt Disney Company.
Oh boy.
Fascinating. Compared to Roman Polanski and David Lynch. Wonderful. I don't know what the basic premise of this is without reading the whole plot, so I don't want to do that. But it already sounds really interesting. I don't think
Daniverse says that Escape from Tomorrow was a huge disappointment.
Oh, good. Well, we're going to watch it.
Would you say the same thing about Rings of Power, though, Daniverse? That's the important question.
Yeah, because if you didn't like that, you still would like Rings of Power.
Exactly. I want that on streaming services. Yo, you didn't like this? Well, you'll like this instead.
Do you enjoy breathing? Then you'll like Rings of Power.
Do you not like being punched? You'll love Rings of Power.
How do you feel about existing? Anyway, you'll like Rings of Power. Thanks again, everybody. We're going to go and get going. I am leaving town tomorrow. I'm getting on a plane at 12:30 in the afternoon to go to Georgia and see DJ. We're going to do a lot of live streaming and some stuff for his channel too, pre-recorded while I'm there. So we're going to be kind of flying by the seat of our pants a little bit. We should be shooting a Captain Logan show tomorrow night at his place, if everything goes according to plan, if I land on time and everything, at 7 o'clock Central Time. But if the time changes, I'll let you know. And sometime over the weekend, we're going to be doing the Superhero Rewind special on our favorite superhero movie scores. And we'll probably do at least one or two other streams as well. So look forward to that. And if you are interested in making a request, go to patreon.com/geekvolution. The $15 tier makes that possible. You can subscribe to it for just 1 month, or you can stay there for however long you'd like to and stay in the rotation. It's about a 4-month wait right now. We still have quite a few people at that tier, and with the backlog, you can ask for a comic, arc, or graphic novel, a movie, or a pilot for a TV show. And until next time, I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Whoa!
Hey, do you hate this book cover? You'll love Rings
of Power. I hope Lord of the Rings, they put that cover on. It just says Rings of Power.
Jar Jar had just wrote, "Oh, you didn't like Rings of Power? Well, here's Rings of Power."
Amazon, it's Jeff Bezos when he breaks into your house with a baseball bat.
Well, We'll see you next time, guys. Bye, everybody.